Coming up next on The Health Hustle.
Do whatever gives you the most freedom. Because when you have the freedom, you then have the option to choose what you want to do, what kind of lifestyle you want to live, how you want to work. When you start to lose freedoms, that's when you start to become a lot more restricted, and your ability to adapt or your ability to pivot or to leave and start brand new. But the more you start to value your own freedom, not just in the work environment, just in your life. I mean, look at what's happening to the freaking world. You always want to have as much freedom as you possibly can, because then you can truly live the life you want to live.
Hey folks, welcome to the Health Hustle of Austin, Texas. On the show, we uncover the big ideas from your fellow health and fitness entrepreneurs in the Austin, Texas area about how they built their business and the lessons they learned along the way. I'm your host, Corey Hibbett, and on this episode, I had a chance to sit down with my good friend, Dr. Scott Mitchell, who is the chiro and owner of Limitless Chiro here in Austin, Texas. Some of the things that we get into are why he chose to get into medicine in the first place, his crazy story about shadowing a naturopath, how he found chiropractic care specifically, where all of his self-awareness comes from, the difference between the East Coast and the West Coast, how he ended up in Austin, Texas, the best part about being a practitioner and all the little secrets he gets to find out about, how he went from being fired from his chiro job to starting his own practice in less than a year, mo money, mo problems, which you'll hear about on this episode, his best life advice, and so much more. Without further ado, let's go. Dr. Scott, welcome to the show. How you doing, brother?
Amazing.
I'm excited.
Good. Me too.
We've been going back and forth for a while now, and it's great that we finally got a chance to sit down and do this. And the place that I want to start with is just to give some people some context of kind of like who you are, what you do, how you kind of got to where you are. You were born, and now you're here.
Yes.
And we're going to cover everything in between.
Wow.
And
let's do it.
Let's go back to your first experience with just like health and wellness and fitness as a whole, because I feel like that's often the starting ground for people of how they even get into the medical field. Where did that start for you?
So growing up in Boston, it wasn't even so much about that. Boston's a very medical-minded city, so it was more so about my fascination with the medical side of health. And like it was very prestigious, and you had to be really smart and very successful and blah, blah, blah. And I just thought as a kid that was pretty cool. I'm like, okay, I'm good at this science stuff. I'm good at school. Let's figure it out. It wasn't until I got into school that was like, okay, wait, this doesn't really mean health. This really means like more so like saving someone's life if they're dying. So kind of like what we were talking about before is I learned a lot of what I wanted to do by learning a lot of what I didn't want to do. So when I saw more and more of that, I was like, okay, there's got to be an answer to actually staying healthy. And that's usually just when I went on like YouTube or Google and just did my own research and just my own experiences. And that's what led me to chiropractic and just, the pursuit of what true health is.
Yeah. Shout out to Matthew McConaughey. It was kind of him that I learned that we're really bad at knowing what we want, but we're really good at knowing what we don't want.
Did he say that?
Yeah.
And it was done in his book?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I read the green lights, right?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly where I picked up on that one. And I've carried that one with me ever since I read that because it's so true. I think so much of the journey of life is that people want to know the answer of like what I'm supposed to be doing or my purpose or what like I'm really good at. And it's like the only way you figure that out is you just try a lot of stuff, which is obviously what you did to get to where you're at today.
A lot of mistakes, a lot of trial and error, a lot of figuring out what I didn't want.
What was the worst job that you tried?
So not even so much job. It was more so, I did have some bad jobs, but it was a lot more so shadowing. I'll never forget this one experience. I was in undergrad and I was like, okay, I don't want to go medicine anymore. I want to see what's more holistic. And I looked up naturopath and I was like, okay, let's find a naturopath nearby and see if I can just go shadow him for a day. So I hit up this one naturopath who just had like some good ratings. And I hit him up and I said, hey, is it cool if I come shadow you? And he said, yeah, it's cool. I was probably 20, 21 at the time. Like this is actually pretty good. Showed up to this like old beat up home and not even home, like it was his office. And I go to like the front door. I'm looking around. I'm like, is this it? I have no idea. There's no signage. There's nothing. It's just like an old beat up town in Massachusetts. And this short, fat guy, I can't like, what's his name? Danny DeVito from So It's Always Sunny. So not that bad. But that's a pretty close comparison. Starts walking down the hallway with a giant like 7-Up, 7 gulp, the gulp thing or whatever. And he's like, oh, hey, you Scott? I'm like, yeah, how'd you know that? He goes, oh, I don't even remember what his name was. But he let me in. We chit-chatted for like maybe 10 minutes. And he started just going down this whole pyramid scheme of, was it knives? I don't even know if it was knives or it was a pyramid scheme of some sort. And I'm trying to learn about health and wellness and naturopath, like what it is. He's got like this TV set from maybe like the 1970s and a bunch of VHS, not even DVD, just like, dude, it was the most clusterfuck I've ever seen. Like, it was horrible. But I was curious to learn, so I just kept asking questions. He kept like talking about this pyramid scheme, and we ended up eventually going to this meetup at this Marriott. Because I was telling my dad, I'm like, hey, like, I want to learn more about this stuff. Like, if you want to come with me to like see if this is like legit or see what you like. And my dad just was like, dude, this is a pyramid scheme. So we literally went there. We sat there for about like 10, 15 minutes listening, me and my dad and my sister's boyfriend at the time. And literally not a single thing has to do with health or wellness. It was just a straight up pyramid scheme. So that was by far my worst experience. Maybe naturopaths are amazing. Obviously, there's amazing ones out there. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a thing. But that experience was just a sign to me saying like, okay, I'm not going to do this.
So he was actually a naturopath.
I don't know, actually.
That's what I'm wondering, right?
I don't know anymore.
Now I'm wondering if he just like put that out there to get people's attention and then was using that to funnel them into this pyramid scheme.
You know what? It didn't work this time. But that was, I can't believe I remembered that story just off the top of my head. But that was my worst experience trying to learn more about the holistic side.
Yeah.
More normal stories. I was working as a dental assistant for a little bit, and I enjoyed dentistry, but I said it just wasn't for me.
Have you ever sat in on like a timeshare deal?
No, I have not.
You never got roped into one of those?
No, I don't plan to. No, I just like to do my traveling on my own.
I'll give you the short story. I got roped into one of those in Cabo, Mexico once, and it was like they were going to pay us like $200 to sit through this ordeal. And it was like, sweet, easy drinking money or whatever.
Yeah.
Long story short, it actually turned out to be one of the scariest overseas experience I've ever had in my life, because they ended up taking us afterwards off of like the resort into the city of downtown Cabo. If you've ever been to Cabo,
I've never been to Cabo.
It gets, the second you get off the beach, it gets
It's
like
different.
It's poverty. It's
Really?
legitimate poverty, and like tin houses poverty. And so they started taking us like into the city after this timeshare conversation, and they're like, you just got to come this way. This is where you're going to get your money. And we're like, what are you talking about? And all of a sudden, like, he dodges down an alleyway with a guard basically at the corner. And at the time, the girl I was dating and his now wife and a buddy of mine, it was all four of us. I was kind of just like following their lead, even though in my head I'm thinking, we're going to get kidnapped.
Yeah.
Like, this is a problem.
Did you already sit through the timeshare?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So like
you felt obligated. You're
totally.
like, I don't want my money.
We waited hours through this timeshare. No. All the no's that you need to do to essentially like not get roped into this deal, in hopes that we would get our free food and drinks and money and whatever. And he dodges down this alleyway, and all of a sudden, like, we're going through basically like a construction zone. And we're going through like this construction zone. We're going up the scaffolding, and then all of a sudden we pop back into the back of the resort, and there was like people with cash registers there, and we're like, "What? Just like, why did we need to go the scariest route of all time in Cabo to find our way back to the resort?"
Maybe they were just trying to scare you off.
Yes.
And a lot of people just don't follow.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. I guarantee you, people probably just like pop off and they're like, "Screw this is scary," and they don't get their money.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that was their stick.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
And this is a bunch of like dumb young guys that are like, "Oh, screw this, let's figure it out."
Yes,
I'd probably figure it out too.
Yeah, that was the first time I ever thought I was legitimately going to get kidnapped. But anyways, enough about me. Back to your story. Okay, so terrible experiences, trying a lot of things. Obviously, you finally found your way to chiropractic school. Can we get into that little phase of things of like, what was it about chiro that was so compelling for you that made you want to go into that?
So there's a lot of things. There's really two components. One side's like the health and wellness, like my own health and wellness, but also being able to help a lot of other people. And the second side was more of like the business and lifestyle side of like the type of life that you can live as a chiropractor. It was really probably getting into my junior year of college, a little bit of senior year. That's when I started to learn more about chiropractic. It was a lot more on YouTube and again, Google, stuff like that. Which is why I do a lot of social media stuff. It's like my way of giving back to see if, inspire that one other person that then wants to be a chiropractor. But watching those videos, I'm just like, man, like these people, they're coming in, coming out. They seem happy to be there. A lot of times when you go to the hospital, like you're just like either dying or sick or just like you don't want to be there. But people are choosing to go to the chiropractor and leaving with smiles on their faces. So already right away, I'm like, okay, it seems like a better work environment than most places. Even if it was like sitting at a computer all day like this, it's still much better. And then when I saw the lifestyle that these chiropractors got to live, just like, a lot of them that loved what they did, they were, healthy. They had like families. They were able to travel. They weren't working, 40 plus hours a week in the office nonstop. They were actually able to create their schedule around the lifestyle they want to live. So I found that to be really cool too. So when I applied to school, I heard back, got accepted. I applied to a school in California, Life West, just to get the hell out of New England for a little bit. Love New England, but 22 years, I'm good. Like that was enough. And then when I got to California, that's when I first really experienced chiropractic and got my first adjustment. And so I didn't even get adjusted beforehand. I was like, I just know this is for me. And, I never looked back. I just, fell in love with it. Just everything, mostly the philosophy, which is all about the body's innate ability to heal. Most chiropractors do it through adjustments. Some people do it through exercise. Some people do it through nutrition or sleep or, there's a variety of different things. My opinion is I just wanted to be the best at one thing, which is chiropractic, and then be able to refer out for all the other things, but also receive a lot of those things. So, I exercise, I try my best to eat right, and massages, acupuncture, and all that type of stuff too.
You seem to have a knack for just like self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't want to get too deep on this. We can if you want, but I'm just curious as to like, where does that come from? Because I know, like, looking back at myself in my 20s,
mm-hmm.
Idiot.
Yeah.
Like borderline moron.
Yeah.
Like just partying, couldn't even tell you what I was doing the next day.
Yeah.
Really had no direction in life.
Mm-hmm.
You seem to have a lot more awareness and had more direction.
Yeah, those moments pop up every once in a while. I know how to have some fun too. You can you can ask some of my friends. But a lot of it really comes from, so my older brother is autistic and he's 1 year older. And then I have 2 younger siblings and then a lot of other cousins that are all younger. So I'm the second oldest, but always felt like the oldest. So because of that, I just always had that mentality of, taking care of the family or taking care of my people. And especially with my older brother being autistic, I had to learn new ways of understanding people, new ways of how to communicate, understand their feelings, their thoughts, all that type of stuff. And it's really allowed me to be better at connecting with other people or just understanding where they're coming from. When I was in grad school, I actually did a whole talk. It was like from like 1,000 people, all about autism awareness. So it's one of the things I'm passionate about too. And it was very impactful for myself, especially, but for some of the people in the crowd too. But it just always allowed me to, kind of like, have my fun, but then every once in a while take a step back and be like, okay, like what do I want to do with my life? Like what's my purpose? How can I live the best life for me, but also give back to the most people? And yeah, so definitely huge part of who I am today is because of my brother.
That is actually fascinating, man.
Mm-hmm.
That says a lot about who you are today. Is like, obviously you probably had to kind of grow up a little bit quicker than the average person.
Mm-hmm.
Well, me, I could get away with drinking a 24 pack in a day and still not have to worry about anything.
Yeah, again, there were still those times, man, for sure.
Because you did undergrad in New England.
Yep, University of New England.
And then you traveled over to California for chiro school.
Yep.
What was your experience between those two worlds of like the people, the environment, what you saw, what you experienced?
Night and day. I don't talk to anyone from undergrad, like not a single person.
Wow.
The only person I talk to is this one person every once in a while, and he actually coincidentally went to chiropractic school too, and he's a chiropractor. But literally it was just so night and day where undergrad was my degrees in medical biology, and so much of it was competition and having the best grades and what can you do to be one step above your competitors. And it wasn't a healing. Like these people are going to be helping people be healthy, but yet all they care about is themselves. Obviously that's a huge generalization, but sure. It was not meant for me. I definitely stuck out. Luckily I was able to play soccer in college. So like I had friends in like a community. But the moment I went to California, I literally just like dropped it, just like completely like bye. Because when I got to California, it was the exact opposite. It was, we're all going to be chiropractors. We all love chiropractic. What can we do to support each other so we all make it and we help the profession as a whole? The moment I felt that, I was like, dude,
yep,
I'm in. So that's why, chiropractors do, for the most part, well, unless they have a really big ego, which that's also, big, which is anyone that's successful. If they're able to drop the ego, we help each other out.
It's crazy, as most people don't realize this too. I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Minnesota. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say there's anything necessarily like cutthroat about that place of the United States, but I will say that there's definitely a lot more kind of keep to yourself.
Okay.
Which what you're talking about from the difference of East and West Coast is like West Coast was more like communal of like people wanted to help and support each other.
Yeah.
It's funny how like just the differences of where you end up and where you grow up and how that affects who you are as a human.
Yeah.
Did you feel just like more at home when you were in California then with that kind of environment? And is that how you ultimately ended up here, or like how did that happen?
I feel that way in Austin.
Yeah.
That's why I don't plan on going back I go back to New England to visit family and stuff. In California, I haven't been back since, but yeah, Austin really has that same sort of mentality. And I don't even know if it was really California. It was definitely my school. Because like when you're in grad school, you're literally there like every single day, all day. Your classmates become like your best friends and just your family. So I don't know much about, California's vibe as a whole.
Because you were just south of San Fran?
Just east. So it's East Bay. So like near Fremont and Hayward, that area.
What's the pace of that area?
Fast.
Is it? Okay.
It's pretty fast. It's but again, I was in grad school, so I was broke as hell. Luckily my uncle and aunt, they live in California too, but up in like Sonoma area, so it's Sonoma County, and they were going to get a new car, and he gave me his old car for $1, which was a 98 Honda Civic stick shift, 250,000 miles on it. Thing was beat to shit, but it was a $1 car, got me from point A to point B. I had to learn how to do stick shift on those freaking hills. It was either to learn or take the bus. Yeah, or die. Or die. I was choosing the bus, but or die. So
why $1?
It was a weird thing where like if I just
taxes
taken like the registration from one name to the other, you had to have some sort of money exchange. So $1, cheapest car I've ever had.
Yeah. I mean, other than free, I guess.
Yeah.
That's great. So then tell me more about that transition to Austin then. So obviously you went to grad school. Was there a phase where you started working in a practice in between there, or did you come straight here and start working?
Yeah. So during my last 3 months of school, there was I was interning at one of my professor's offices, which was in San Francisco, and it was this really successful practice. It was very high tech, very much on the research, very like it was just very well organized. And I was interning there, and I liked it. I liked what they were doing, but the thing is that the way that they were practicing is not very affordable for most people, whether it's money wise or energy, time, all that type of stuff, because they would require someone to come in 3 times a week for 3 months and be paying a whole lot of money because they have all this infrastructure, like all these different things. And it was amazing. Like people got great results, but unfortunately the average person isn't able to afford the time or energy or money for that. And he offered me a job right out of school, but unfortunately it wasn't adjusting. It was taking people out of these in and out of these traction units. It was taking a shit ton of x-rays, doing a bunch of lines on the x-rays, calculating all these things. Like it was everything that a chiropractor does besides the chiropractic. It was going to be that for a full year before I could adjust. And I told him, hey, I got student loans coming. I've been in California for too long. I need to adjust people, otherwise I'll go crazy. I'm like, unfortunately, no. So I started looking at some other options. And one of my other options was to go to Denver and work with this one chiropractor. He was one of my mentors. But in his office, he would see on average about 800 patients a week. And I thought that was amazing.
Per him alone?
Him alone. 56 years old at the time, I think. He's been doing it for years. So 800 people a week. He has this big office. I think he had like 8 staff members, all this different like infrastructure, just all this overhead. And I thought it was amazing from the outside looking in, hearing about it. But then when I actually went there and experienced it, I'm like, dude, how effective is this? And what is the lifestyle like? Like he would just like look forward to his Tuesday massages so we could relax, and look forward to the weekend so we can finally relax. And he was just go and just hustling so hard. And I was like, I don't want to step into a practice where I'm overworked, underpaid, and just burnt out right away. So I ixed that option. And then my third option was one of my buddies who actually lives out here. He's a chiropractor as well. He was about 2 years ahead of me in school. And he reached out and he said like, hey, Austin's amazing. You should come down here. I've been down here for almost a year now and I'm loving it. I'm trying to learn this and that. But if you came down, I feel like together we could really create something amazing. So I went down to visit Austin, and just everyone's story is the same. Mm-hmm. You go down to visit for a weekend or a week and you're like, all right, I'm moving here.
People are great. Love it. Never leaving.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was my story. I graduated when I was 25, moved down to Austin like about a month or 2 later. I just went back home just for like to take a deep breath because I'm like, shit. They're like, okay, grad school's a lot. Drove down here with my sister. So we actually lived here together and we started working together. And when I first started working, it's so different. It's, I turned down this amazing office, and what we were doing was we were renting space from another chiropractor. So they had their own chiropractic office, and then we had like a little space in there, and I was technically renting space from him because I was an independent contractor. So I'm all the way in the back in a curtained off area. So there's no door, there's no walls. It's a curtain, and I have my fold up table, and I have a laptop, and that's it. And there's a big like Buddha painting right there for some freaking reason. The color scheme of the office was horrible. The bathroom was right next to me, so you can hear people going to the restroom as I'm trying to work on people. Like I'm talking about humbling experience for sure. My first month, I think I made $800 for the month.
Oh.
Because I had no patience.
Sure.
You have to go out, you have to shake hands, kiss babies, go to this event, this apartment complex, this business, that business, shake hands. Like, you had to do anything you could just to get to know people.
So he invited you down purely just to fill the space, not necessarily to have a caseload ready for you or anything like that.
So it was a combo. It was, he wasn't giving me patience, but what we were doing is I was under his brand. So our relationship was pretty much anything I did underneath that brand, he would keep a percentage and I would keep a percentage. So It wasn't what like most scenarios are, which is you step into a practice and they give you a bunch of patients and you take care of those patients and you get paid a salary plus, commission or bonus or whatever. So mine was really much, I turned down everything to bet on myself. And funny enough, the first month, I then got a phone call from one of my other mentors, and he said, hey, I have this practice up in Vermont that I have another chiropractor working at, but he just came down with, I think it was like Lyme disease or some other autoimmune disease that like really like took him out, like he couldn't practice anymore. So he said, hey, if you want to move up to Burlington, Vermont and take over, you'll just take over his salary. And it was 6 figures. Okay. I'm over here making $800 in 1 month. More like literally just stressed out, like how the hell am I going to get patients? Being offered a job up in Burlington, Vermont, an area that I'm familiar, well, not Vermont, but like New England, I'm familiar with. And I turned him down, even though, it was a great opportunity because I just wanted to bet on myself. And I wanted to bet on Austin too.
There's that self-awareness piece again, man. Because like so many people would have taken that bite. I mean, if somebody earlier in their practice for sure probably would have taken the Denver one. They probably would have taken the 6-figure one. But you seem to have this self-awareness around like what you actually want to do and continue to follow that path regardless of what it looks like. I'd be curious as to who do you consult with? You know what I mean? Because like when I think about like all the really, really dark moments in my own personal life, my first phone call is always my dad. And I'd be curious as to like, what's the backbone for you that allows you to make decisions like that? Because I think a lot of it is like, I think the expression often used is like having a runway or having some sort of something that you can fall back on in a worst case scenario. Like what are those things for you?
So my parents as well, always a fallback, because I know that if everything crashes and burns for some reason, I could always just move back home to Boston. My parents, like I've always been that way, which is great. But I didn't want to utilize that. I wanted to be able to, again, bet on myself. So my parents definitely like to, play it safer. So, when I'm telling them about the scenario, they call me doggy. They say, oh, doggy, I don't know. This job offer sounds really good. I mean, you're over there. It sounds rough. I mean, you got student loans coming. They just pointing out all the things I already know. I'm like, thanks, Mom. But it honestly kind of helps me because they're saying all that. I just want to do the opposite. I was always that person that just like, okay, if everyone's looking this way, it must mean that there's something else going on over here. So... And it just always worked out. I sometimes I think to myself, I'm just like, do it for the story, just do it. As cheesy as it is, just do it. If it doesn't work out, at least you have a great story. You can always figure it out afterwards. You can always adapt and pivot for the most part.
I love the story mentality.
Yeah.
I talk about that a lot now. That was actually, it's funny you say that. We briefly talked about this before recording about how I got my parents' car towed. When I called my dad to tell him that I got his car towed, the first thing I said when he answered the phone is I go,
I got a story. Yeah.
Yep. And I go, making memories.
Yeah. It's exactly, I mean, that's all you can do. It already happened. Worst comes to worst, at least for me, I could end up in my parents' house, If I was like, if I don't do this stuff now or bet on myself now, then I'll never do it. One day I'm gonna have like a family and kids and stuff like that, and I won't be able to be as risky then. Right now, well, like at the time I was 25, I had all the potential in the world. I could risk everything, and just always have something to fall back on.
I still feel that way.
I do too.
I've kind of like, I'm pretty intentional about trying to own as little as possible and to have as little responsibility as possible, because I know what that does for my psychology of to be able to make the decisions that most people can't, because they have things that they need to take care of, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I've been just really intentional about having as little of that as possible, so that like when odd, unique things, like I was out in California recently, took a trip out to LA, and then also ended up taking an Amtrak down to San Diego and spent a week down in San Diego.
San Diego's amazing.
Just because I could and I wanted to, and I had the opportunity to do that. Most people unfortunately can't, because they get weighed down by every other aspect of their life.
And when I was growing up, I used to feel guilty about, I didn't grow up like rich or anything like that, but like I did grow up rich in the terms of like love. My family was awesome. Everyone always wanted to be over my house. I didn't have to worry about a meal. Like there was always food. So I was rich in that sense, but I didn't grow up like without like the cars and the clothes and all that stuff. But for the longest time, I always felt guilty. I'm like, man, my friends don't have this type of love and support. Like I should feel bad about myself. And I'd almost like neglect it a little bit too. But I don't know what happened, but pretty much I think it was like when I got to college, I was like, you know what, instead of like feeling bad or guilty about it, instead, what can I do to utilize this to live the best life I can do and help the most people I can? Because I was dealt a great hand. So since I was dealt a great hand, I can either feel bad about it, or I can actually do something about it to help out more people.
Love your heart of service, man. That's, again, I'm going to keep saying it, self-awareness. I feel like at that age of my life, I was chasing girls and drinking beer. And
I was doing that too. There's still always a little bit of that too. That's what,
I'm still doing that. No,
that's why I came to Austin too. I was like, wow, this place is amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of great looking people here.
Yes.
I'd be curious as to, okay, so I just want to make this side note, but like not having a door in your first ever practice must have made it awkward when your patients scream, right? No, I'm just kidding. But,
screaming, crying, and all that type of stuff.
But in a more serious note what was your first patient? Do you remember?
It was just so many different. I do remember there was this one patient though. He's actually still with me today. He's, when did he come in? I must have been like maybe a month or two into practice, and I still see him today. He still comes in frequently. Actually comes in every single week. He's a good friend. He's a realtor as well, so I've referred him a lot of people. So yes, he benefits from getting adjusted, but he also benefits from getting a lot of referrals from me. A lot of people don't think about that. It's like when you go to a town.
Wait, do I know this guy?
Maybe.
Does
Ryan.
he live in Houston?
Ryan, no, he's out here.
Okay.
But a lot of people don't know this, that if you go to a town, you can go to like a bartender, or you can go talk to a bartender or talk to a chiropractor, and you'll learn everything about the town or about the people.
That makes sense.
Referrals. We talk to a lot of people. When you're face down and I have my hands on you too, it just breaks that connection, or breaks that barrier and builds that connection.
Right.
Where I've learned a lot of things about things, like about crypto or about real estate or about where to get a haircut. Like, you just learn like so many different things from all these different people, even though it's like a 10-minute appointment. And obviously most of it's focused on the chiropractic, but there is that relationship that you build too. Otherwise, that's one of the reasons why I'm here. Too.
Right.
You invited me out here. I'm a chiropractor, blah, blah, blah.
So how did you get out of this doorless room and into an actual clinic and facility? What did that journey look like for you?
It's a hustle, man. It's a freaking hustle. We were just grinding because like we were very similar in the business aspect and like in the professional aspect. Yeah, we just grinded. We're not married at the time, and like we were just young, and we had iPhones that could do Instagram. So we're like, all right, let's just like record videos adjusting patients and post it out there, and find other people that have good followings and get them to come out here and record them and have them posted, and just, go to this event, go to that event, and just do everything we can just to get out in the community. And we did that, and we started growing from, one person to 2 person to 3 people. There were times that he would leave for, like a week-long vacation or something, and I would see his patients. And even though I was seeing his patients, I wasn't getting paid for seeing his patients. I was more so gaining the experience. So for instance, there were times, I don't know, like when I first started, maybe if I saw like 7 people a day, that was cool. But then when you would leave, and maybe I'd jump up to, 20 people that day. And because now I've got gained that muscle, that experience of what it feels like to actually see 20 people a day, usually a couple weeks went by and boom, I was up to that number. He'd go away for another week. I would see some of his patients. I would just jump up that much more. And I built that muscle to then be able to do it. So I think that kind of just ties into the fact that if you want to learn something, just go freaking do it. Be bad at it. If like at the start, who cares? You just got to do it so you build that muscle, you build that mentality to then get better. This whole mentality everyone uses it for the gym is like, if you want to start working out again, just go drive to the gym and drive home. Don't even get out of the car. Just drive to the gym, drive home. Next time, get out of the car, go walk around the gym, and then come back into your car. And next time, maybe just go walk on the treadmill for a little bit, and then you just start building that muscle and start doing little bits after little bit, and then you start to, before you know it, you look back and like, oh shit, like how far I came.
Yeah, it's like an exposure therapy thing. I think it's one of the greatest things that I've loved about just like connecting with people that you admire or are mentors or you aspire to be, is that like when you meet them and you get around them and you're exposed to them, all of a sudden it pulls it back of like, oh, that's not so audacious or scary, or they're just like normal like I am, or like going to this gym isn't that big of a deal, or experiencing this thing. Yeah. I will say though, one thing I did, I had a short stint of stand-up comedy. I don't know if that,
I think you told me that.
I don't know if that ever goes away, because that's
a whole other ball
that
game.
That is tough, man.
I mean, there's nothing worse than bad comedy when you're sitting there and you're just cringing. Oh, I've seen some like the free shows on Dirty Six sort of stuff like back in the day, and you're sitting there like, ooh,
because you want them to do good.
Yeah.
And then you feel bad, and then because that was me, I was that guy.
Yeah. So if I could, except some of them, when they know they're bombing, they then start going towards like the sexist jokes, the racist jokes, and I'm just sitting there like, dude, you're making it worse. Like, it's bad.
Yeah. I was just gonna make a side note. That's the one thing where it's like, man, that takes a lot of exposure.
Dad, I have a lot of respect for people that make it in comedy. Holy shit.
So much respect. Okay, so I know obviously today, which I want to get into finally, is like what you're doing with your own practice. Like, how did that start for you, and like what was the mission behind that, and like how did you even start getting people into your own personal private practice that you do now today?
Yeah, I mean, Limitless Chiropractic has only been around now since, July 17th, 2021. And that was when it was just me. Then with the team, so we have another chiropractor, Dr. James, office manager, Danielle, and actually we just hired another person, yesterday for the front desk. And we're going to keep hiring more and more people as we grow. But this has only been around since January 3rd of this year. So it's only about 11 months old now. We'll be celebrating our 1 year, and obviously like the beginning of the year. I just always knew that I wanted to do my own thing, but also it would have been nice to be with people. I've just always like had that kind of not alpha dog mentality, but a little bit of that alpha dog. I don't like it when someone tells me I can't do something. I value freedom a lot. And unfortunately with the old office, so when I was working with my buddy, we were both kind of alpha dogs. We were both, loving freedom and wanted to do our thing. And at the beginning, it worked out really well because it allowed us to really play off each other and almost have a little bit of competition with each other to help it grow. And a year and a half of me being there, we got best chiropractic office in Austin. Woo. Just after a year and a half. So, and we got like a brand new office right off South Lamar, and it was like booming. We were crushing it.
Can I pause you for a second?
Yeah.
What do you contribute that award to? What do you think it was about your clinic that made you stand out?
I think it was how much fun we were having. Like it just looked like we were having fun. We weren't doing it to win anything. We were just doing it because we were just two young guys that just loved chiropractic that was like, fuck it, let's just like go all out and just try new things and just be crazy. And it so was, you were like infectious.
Adjusting people that were hanging upside down from like,
not that crazy. Okay. that's after hours. But yeah, so we just started just like, hey, let's record this, or hey, let's do this. Let's go to this event. We got a billboard that said best crack in Austin. That way people were like, what did that say? So like, we just started doing just like fun, different things and weren't scared to be different. And it was working out great. And I was about 2.5 years in, and I was pretty much at my max. I was completely full schedule, seeing more people than I've ever seen before. Could barely even fit any more new patients in. Just like I was at the peak. So because I was at the peak, I was like, okay, what's the next step? Like we have to either hire more people or get another office and expand. We have to do some sort of growth because we both just can't just stay. If you just stay stagnant, you're actually declining. You're not growing. Mm-hmm. So my buddy, he then goes on a 10-day vacation. Doesn't tell anyone like what to do. He kind of just he said that he's going on vacation, just kind of leaves. So I'm there kind of manning the fort, telling people like, okay, like staff, this is what we got to do. We got to do this, do that. And we're just seeing his patients and we're just grinding. And then he comes back. And when he comes back, he says, hey, let's meet up. I was like, okay, cool. So we meet up, and I thought we were going to talk about, okay, let's expand. Let's get the next office. Like, what's the next move? You were just gone for 10 days. You must have been brainstorming some stuff. Like, let's freaking go. Let's do this. And he just sits down and just very vaguely just says, Scott, our run together is over. I need you out in 2 weeks.
Whoa.
Out of the blue.
Whoa.
It was 5th of July, because I remember it was right after the 4th of July. And just says, I need you out in 2 weeks. And I'm like, and you can tell he's been thinking about this for a while. And there's a lot of stuff to that story too. But basically, sometimes when life just hits you with like one of the worst things you can think of, or one of the worst things you think could happen, it's actually serving you in some sort of way. And, I cried and was like, I couldn't believe this, one of my best friends, and he would just do this to me. And it really tore me down for about 2 days, like really, really tore me down for 2 days, because I was still working there. I was like, fuck, do I move back to Boston? I was just got in a relationship at that time, now my fiance, so it's clearly worked out with me not moving back. But I was like, what the hell am I supposed to do? I just put everything into this, my heart and soul, and just be told 2 weeks I need you out. So I cried. Like, the rest of the staff couldn't believe it. They were like, holy shit. But during those 2 weeks I grinded. And luckily for me, we didn't have a contract. So because we didn't have a contract, there's no contract. There's nothing signed. So I could pretty much, it's fair game.
Yep, you can do your own thing.
So I can do my own thing. Talk to some of my mentors. They've seen it all. Actually, my mentor now, he's the number one chiropractic mentor out there. He's 76 years old. He's a fucking, just a badass. He's seen everything. And so he was helping. It's Dr. Fred Schofield. Talked to him this morning, every Tuesday morning. He just shits on me.
Okay.
That's kind of the coaching I like.
That.
I like it when someone shits on me versus gives me props.
You need honesty.
I like that.
Yeah.
So
Same.
He helped me guide me through the whole process. I was able during those 2 weeks to figure out, okay, this is somewhere where I can rent space for now. This is my new business. This is I had to do everything in 2 weeks. I literally started a business from the ground up. Logo, everything. Everything. And opened up 12 days later, started seeing patients right away. And then as we were growing that, it was just me, myself, and I. So I went from that whole team mentality and established practice. We worked our asses off. We got here. So, okay, I'm starting brand new. I'm in not the best rental space ever, alone. New software, everything. And just kept going. Actually, a week after that, I went to Costa Rica for 10 days. Just get the hell away and just vacation, get my mind off everything. And then, I started talking to another chiropractor here, Dr. James, who now joined me as well. So he's working in the office. And then we got Danielle, our office manager. She started working in the office. And we just started growing from there. And when we found the new space, we got it built out. And January 3rd, we opened up, and we've been open since, and just keep adding new things to the office, keep trying to play around with some new ideas for marketing, for the community, just for business. Just everything. So now going into 2023, it's a lot more familiar. It's not as much just uncharted territory. We have a lot of things that are laid down. So this next year it's just gonna boom.
So we think anyways, right? Who knows what the world will throw at us? I feel like if there's anything I've learned in my 34 years of life is that you just never know.
No.
Which is beautiful.
And the best part about COVID was that we boomed during COVID. People had nothing to do. They were more aware about, I need to get healthy. So we exploded during COVID. Even though COVID sucked, I don't wish it ever to happen again. It actually did help our business dramatically. And it brought more people to social media, which is where we were thriving as well.
I want to circle back to what you were talking about just that pain and that experience of getting fired from somebody who is obviously a really close friend of yours, and just maybe what you learned from that. Because looking back at my own journey, I feel like I've been cut a few times from ex-girlfriends and relationships and that kind of relationships. I think everyone probably listening has had that experience. But to have it happen from a friend, I feel like is kind of a new experience, I would be willing to bet.
Oh, yeah.
What do you feel like you learned from that, or how did you, grow from that situation?
So there was a couple of things with that. It was one, I've never been fired before. Two, I've never been fired for doing too good of a job. It'd make more sense if I was doing something bad.
Sure.
If I was a jerk or something like that. But I was just too good at what I was doing. It was kind of a mind fuck, honestly. Because if you get fired for just, being a bad employee,
Sure.
That's one thing. But I was getting fired for being too good. So it took me a little while to think about that. And honestly, I'm so grateful that it happened, because it led me to where I am today.
Totally.
but it's also allowed me to be, very vulnerable with anyone else that joins my team, because they now know, like, okay, I can be the best version of myself. I can be better than Scott, and he would never do that to me, because I already know what it feels like. I already know what it's about, and I don't have a big ego. I want Dr. James to be better than me. I want the next chiropractor I bring on to be better than me. I don't remember who said it, but probably a couple of people have said it. It's like the smartest person in the room isn't necessarily the smartest person in the room. They're the ones that surround themselves with people way smarter than them. And that's kind of the mentality I have, is like, I just want to be able to surround myself with the people that are better than me at certain things, because just having that relationship, I mean, it takes the pressure off of me, but also just grows my community and ends up helping everyone.
That's one of the major reasons that I love this podcast show, man, is I just bring on people like you that are way smarter than me. And I'm like, teach me everything you know.
That's the greatest thing about podcasts, is you can just pick people's brains. It's awesome.
I've heard you say this before, and I want to know what this means. It sounds like you're more afraid of success than you are of failure. Mm-hmm. And I really resonate with that a lot, because like I'm always looking for ways to challenge and push myself, and also be in those rooms where I'm not the smartest person, and like, or do things like stand-up comedy where I know I'm going to bomb, because I'm not afraid of the failure, because I always mm-hmm. know that it leads to other things, or even very difficult situations where you get fired from a friend of like, mm-hmm. you probably knew in the back of your head, like, you're going to learn from this, you're going to grow from this, and you're going to be a better person, and something great's going to come from it, which it obviously did with the mm-hmm. practice you do now. But I would like to just dive a little deeper into like, what does that mean to you that you're more afraid of success than you are of failure?
I guess that's actually one of the things I'm working on too. So I'm always constantly trying to work on my feelings, emotions, and just thoughts, and trying to understand them better. And I feel like I'll be doing that for the rest of my life. But in this case, it was a lot more so when I was a little bit younger, but I knew I was going to be successful at something, or just, I was just going to be successful in general. And I guess I always felt like that the more successful I become, the less I'm able to go back to old Scott. Mm. And so actually, so I've been in therapy now with my therapist for like 2 years, 2.5 years or so. Not because there's anything wrong. It's just because I understand mental health is so important. And that was one of the things that we worked on at the very beginning too, is that there's no going back to that old Scott, that high school Scott that would just long hair, play soccer with friends, just eat all the food in the freaking world, sit on the couch and stay up till like 2 a.m. watching movies or video games, whatever, and just like, be a teenager, and I guess it's more so that I'm more scared of success than failure, because I know I'll never go back to that. Totally. It's a good thing I'm never going to go back to that. I mean, I'm not going to serve society like that. But man, those days were good.
When
being a teenager,
mattered.
Those days were great.
Hot Pockets were awesome.
Exactly. You'd eat anything you want. It was.
Just play up video games till 2 a.m. and didn't care.
Yep. So it's more so around those lines.
And the reason I bring that up is because it's also something I'm thinking a lot about and working a lot through myself, because like, exactly to your point, is I've started to realize that the more you climb that ladder, depending upon how you define success, I always think that's a very interesting word, because obviously it's different mm-hmm. for everybody. But depending upon how you define that word, is that you start to realize that like, as you climb that pinnacle and that ladder, that mountain or whatever it is you realize that like everything underneath that all of a sudden is a whole lot less fulfilling. Mm-hmm. And it forces you to new standards that you mm-hmm. never held yourself to before. Mm-hmm. And so as you continue to climb, you continue to hold higher in standards for yourself. Yeah. And it's like, it's scary to think of like, man, like what if I really held myself to the ultimate standard? Because mm-hmm. How hard that would be, but mm-hmm. also how fulfilling that would be.
It's kind of like the higher the climb, the harder the fall sort of thing.
Exactly.
Or like even more cheesy is like the more money, more problems sort of thing, and it's true. Like the more successful you get, usually you delegate a lot of things more. You have like a bigger team, like more employees, something like that, and you're now responsible for them. Like I would do, and my team knows this, I would do anything for them. So it's just like, I now have that much more pressure on myself to do my best for them. I'm engaged. So now it's even like, I don't have to just worry about me. I worry about her too. Or I don't, not worry, but I take care of myself and take care of her. Obviously she takes care of me too. But yeah, I guess it's just the more successful you get, the more responsibility. Totally. I think you can kind of replace or interchange those words a little bit too.
So one of the questions I often get from people that listen to the show is they want to know, where are you going next? Like, what do things look like for you moving into the future? Because mm-hmm. like, it's always exciting to follow the journey of like how we got to, you were born, you're here now today. now what's next for you? Or what do you anticipate is next? Because obviously, who knows what'll happen?
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, you'll get your car towed like I did. I don't know.
Hopefully it doesn't happen. I did park like over there, and
Stolen,
it looked a little risky when I was over there.
Dude,
too,
side
but we'll
note,
see.
total side note. When I was working out over at Auditorium Shores, one of my best friends called me and he goes, "You'll never get what just happened." And obviously I have no idea. And he goes, one of my other really, really good friends back in Minnesota, he got his car stolen and he literally calls just laughing. Laughing because he's like, "What do you do?" And he goes, "I literally watched him." I'm from Minnesota. He goes, "I literally watched him steal it. He was outside shoveling the snow while his car was like warming up or whatever. He saw the guy get in his car and drive away with all of his stuff in it, his phone, everything. And the only phone number that he has memorized is my other best friend who called me. With the one who called me, he's like, "You'll never guess what happened." And it was just like,
oh my God,
that's life, man. Like, what do you do other than laugh, right?
So that's the thing is, I don't know what's going to happen next. I have some ideas, some thoughts, some goals, but those will change. I've realized that anytime I write down goals, let's say that's like, year-long goals, I'll get to that year, or I'll get like maybe like 3 months in and already change them again.
Same.
3 months later, change them again. Some of it is unknown. Some of it is more of a secret that I kind of want to like work on internally. I feel like it's important to also like do your own grind that no one else knows about. I feel like nowadays, especially with social media, people are too open about every aspect of their life. Sometimes you got to keep some shit to yourself. So that way it just becomes that much more special. And then when it happens, then you can like be able to tell people or share it more. So there are some things I'm doing that I like to keep to myself. But in terms of the office is just growth. We got a lot of systems down. Right now, they're actually seeing patients right now. I don't work Tuesday afternoons. That way I can do stuff like this, connect with people and work on the side of the business that not a lot of people see. And then, keep adding more employees, more chiropractors, more staff, more services, and just grow from there.
I'm excited to find out what your secret self-work is going to be this coming year.
Not this coming year. This one's a couple of years down the road, but it's going to be pretty awesome. And it's like the retirement plan, but it's still chiropractic.
I'm going to put a pin in that.
Put a pin in that.
I'm going to circle back with you at some point.
Yeah.
I got 10 rapid fire questions. It's just first thing that comes to mind. Best business advice.
So actually the best business advice I ever got was if you can't pay for it in cash, you don't need it yet.
I like it. Best marketing advice.
Best marketing advice is just do it. I mean, it's Nike. But,
Nike, let's go.
I guess like just do it. Yeah.
Favorite part about entrepreneurship?
The freedom.
When are you the most productive?
The mornings.
Who is your inspiration?
Combo between my dad and my older brother.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me one secret about you or something most people don't know about you.
Oh, I guess one thing, I love screamo music. That's my shit. Get in the mosh pits and stuff and crowd surfing. And I don't do that stuff anymore just because I got to protect my body. But yeah, like the harder, the better.
The chillest people I've ever met are always the ones that say that.
Yeah, it's like it's the two ends of the spectrum. You got to go to that screamo con to like Warped Tour and stuff and just let it out.
Yeah, because I think we all have all spectrums of the emotions that we need. We just experience them in different ways. And like
Definitely.
Obviously that's your way of experiencing that.
Yes, sir.
What would you change about yourself?
Taller, more handsome. No, I'm just kidding. What would I change?
You already got your beautiful lady. You don't need that.
I'm set. I'm good. I'm good now. I'm perfect. It's funny. It's like when you get into a relationship, then like all of a sudden more girls want you. And it's like, what the fuck? Where was this before?
Exactly.
What would I change about myself now? I guess learning to. This is actually one thing I'm really working on is learning how to just slow down and just chill, because I am a very good worker and I need to learn how to slow down and chill, and I continue to do it. Otherwise, burnout's inevitable. So avoiding the burnout.
Yeah, especially as a practitioner. Anyone in the healthcare space, that's a huge deal.
A lot of energy exchange.
Believe me, I've been there.
Yeah.
When were you the happiest?
Oh man, like teenagehood and just childhood. Those were so many, dude. We had so much fun. Family had like literally my parents put all their money just into the house, pretty much. We didn't have fancy cars or anything like that. It was just big house that everyone wanted to come over. So it was literally all my friends at my house. Pool parties, sleepovers, manhunt, soccer. I mean, we just did every. Oh, dude, childhood.
Manhunt?
Yeah, it's like tag on steroids. Full neighborhood manhunt, broken up into 2 teams. One team hides anywhere in the neighborhood. The other team has to go get them. And then you go to jail on the front porch and you get released from jail. Dude, yeah, one of the games we had like 20 or 30 kids all playing throughout the neighborhood. And when you're going between like people's houses and their backyards at night, and sometimes you see them watching the weirdest shit on TV, climbing up trees and like the moment.
Dog.
Oh my God, it was definitely childhood was so much fun.
I had a similar experience. We played a lot of like Ghost in the Graveyard, Kick the Can, those sorts of games.
Kickball, I mean anything.
Yeah.
And then even now too. I mean, now this point in my life is also a lot of fun. It's just a totally different type of fun. It's like now, like when you're a kid, you don't need shit. You know, as an adult, you kind of need to pay your mortgage, and you need to pay for this, pay for that. But like now, I actually have enough money to like go travel and stuff like that too. So different experiences.
Unless you live as a homeless person in LA, which I experienced, and I was thinking a lot about that. I was like, man, they have no mortgage. They maybe spend a few hours out on the strip, make a few bucks just so they can pay for their meals, and then they just like chill the rest of the time. I was like, not that I would choose to do that, but I also sort of understand it as like I get how somebody could get into that lifestyle of like, yeah, you have no payments, you have no responsibilities.
That's the word. More responsibilities, more problems.
That's
not more money, more problems, more money. Yeah. So I mean, I've thought about stuff like that too. But I was like, you know what? I want to be able to travel, and in order to travel, you need to make money.
Exactly.
So that's why I'm like, all right, you know what? I'll do this whole job work thing so I can be able to pay to travel.
Do you have a rap background as well? Because isn't that like a Tupac or Biggie or something?
I mean, I like a lot of that stuff, but I do not. You don't want to have me start spitting rhymes.
One more favorite part about Austin.
Oh my God, one favorite part. Jesus. I feel like everyone's gonna say it's the people. It's definitely the community. It's a lot of young, healthy, entrepreneurial-minded people. There's a lot of great things about Austin, but that's probably number one.
Yeah, I was listening to your interview on Neck Bears, and he was talking about every time he drives by the Ladybird Trail, he just wants to get out and run.
Yeah.
I have had similar experiences because I walk that trail almost every day, and it just motivates you.
Really?
It just gets you like want to move and run and be active.
I don't want to run, but I definitely want to get out and move. I'm not a big runner, but
I'm not either until I started walking that trail, and then like the competitive nature in me jumps out, and it's like I gotta compete.
Yeah.
I gotta get on this.
Definitely.
I did want to throw this joke at you because my buddy told it to me. Have you heard?
You just wanted to use the button, didn't you?
I saw the light, and have you heard the one about the moth that goes to the chiropractic's office?
No, I haven't.
You haven't heard this one?
Mm-mm.
Oh man, I'll give you the short version. So basically, this moth walks into a chiropractic office, and he's like, "Hey man, like just things are really going terrible in my life. Like my wife left me, my kids hate me, like I'm super out of shape, like I just can't keep up with my health and my fitness, and just like everything's going to crap, and like lost my job, and like I don't know where I'm gonna live next, and like I have no idea what I'm gonna do with my life, and like everything's getting super hard, and I don't know who to talk to, and I don't know what to do about this." And the chiropractor's like, wow, like that's like really hard. Like, how are you dealing with this? He's like, I'm not, like, honestly, I'm starting to drink a lot more. And like, actually, I'm considering actually like smoking cigarettes because I think that might calm me down. And like, I just have all these issues and problems. And like, I don't even know where to turn next. And the chiropractor he's like, it's terrible. Like, I'm sorry. He's like, what can I help? Or like, what? I'm only a chiropractor. Like, what can I do? And he goes, oh, no, nothing. Just your light's on.
Oh. I've never heard that one before. So what do you want me to do? Hey, that sounds like a normal visit at the chiropractic office. We gotta, that's a lot of energy.
My buddy Bill told me that one, and he's done them where he's gone on for like 20 minutes before he gets to the punchline. But like the longer you drag it out, like
the more you start thinking like, what the hell is the punchline gonna be? What's coming?
Exactly. Yeah. And then the more pissed off people get, because then they're like, I waited all this time for you to tell me that the moth wanted to go. It's the greatest. Before I ask my last question, I just want to acknowledge you, man. Like, you obviously have, like I said it a number of times, a lot of just self-awareness about the direction you're going and what you want to do and the community you want to build, the people you want to help, and like how you continue to move forward in your life and do it with a very intentional purpose of like really wanting to serve people, and especially the Austin community. And you obviously have a heart of service, which I'm sure stems from just like the love you got from your own family and your own parents and like the upbringing that you have. And I just want to acknowledge the fact that like you're doing awesome things for Austin, and we appreciate it.
Hey, I'm appreciating this podcast too. I mean, you're bringing on some cool people. Yeah, man. So it just allows more people to recognize too. I love it.
And they're all here in town.
And they're all here. I mean, you don't have to go anywhere. Exactly. It's perfect.
Final question for you. I ask this for everybody on the show, and it's really just like what your best piece of advice is. So like if you were to go back to ground zero of starting your practice of what you do now today and like all the things that you learned, and you can go back to the younger you or somebody maybe in that position of like wanting to start a practice or wanting to start a side hustle or whatever it is, of like just wanting to get into that entrepreneurship journey, what's maybe the best piece of advice you could give to that person or even yourself?
I think there's a lot of things, but I'd say it all really stems back to me to freedom. Is do whatever gives you the most freedom. Because when you have the freedom, you then have the option to choose what you want to do, what kind of lifestyle you want to live, how you want to work. When you start to lose freedoms, that's when you start to become a lot more restricted, and your ability to adapt or your ability to pivot or to leave and start brand new. But the more you start to value your own freedom, not just in the work environment, just in your life. I mean, look at what's happening to the freaking world. You always want to have as much freedom as you possibly can, because then you can truly live the life you want to live.
Totally. I talk about that all the time, about time, location, and financial freedom. Like, that is the ultimate goal.
It's one of my cheesiest jokes that I use in the office is sometimes I'll adjust someone and they're like, oh my gosh, I can move. And I'm like, yeah, you know what I call that? Freedom. Or I say, I like my spine like I like my country. Free.
America. And then you pull out the flag.
And I pull out the flag right there.
You blow the horn, the air horn.
I like my spine like I like my country. Free. There it is. Yeah, we had to use it at least once. Jesus.
Thanks for being on the show, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the show, and I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed recording it. Before you go, I only have one ask of you, and that would be to check out my 3 Tips Tuesday newsletter. It's 3 marketing tips every Tuesday that is specific for the health and fitness professional to help them market and grow their business. If you press the link in the description, it will take you to the archive of all my previous posts, and you can decide for yourself if it's something for you. If you find it helpful in any way, you can just sign up for the newsletter on that page, and then you'll get the weekly 3 Tips Tuesday in your inbox every week. Thanks again, and keep hustling, my friends.